My son looked me in the eye and said, "Dad, the wedding dinner was yesterday. Only important people were invited." A week later, he called for $65,000. How did I go from invisible father to their last hope? And what did they forget about me? I'm Howard Lane, but everyone calls me Howie. 57 years old, utilities engineer for the city of Portland. I spend my days calculating water pressure and electrical loads, making sure the lights stay on and the pipes don't burst. It's methodical work that suits my temperament. I like problems with clear solutions. My wife Margaret passed away 8 months ago. An aggressive illness moved fast, which was a mercy in its own harsh way. Since then, the house has been too quiet, filled with the echo of conversations that will never happen again. My kids, Eli and Maya, came back for the memorial service, stayed for the reception, then slipped back into their busy lives. I understood. People grieve differently. What I didn't understand was the silence that followed. It started with missed calls. Eli's birthday came and went without our usual dinner. Maya's promotion at the marketing firm passed without celebration. When I reached out, I got short texts. "Super busy, Dad. Talk soon." Soon never came. Then, on a Tuesday morning in October, Maya sent me a text that made my coffee taste like ash. "Sorry about last night. Hope you understand." I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Last night? I'd been home watching the news, eating leftover Chinese food. What was I supposed to understand? I called her, straight to voicemail. I called Eli, same thing. That evening, I drove to Eli's luxury condo downtown. The building had a doorman, all marble and brass, the kind of place that screamed success. I'd helped with the down payment 2 years ago, back when Eli's startup was just getting off the ground. "Good evening, Mr. Lane," the doorman said. His name was Marcus, and we'd chatted before during my visits. "You just missed the celebration." "Celebration?" "The wedding dinner. Beautiful event. Mrs. Vivian looked stunning. Your son's a lucky man." My stomach dropped. "Wedding dinner?" Marcus looked confused. "The private event last weekend. 50 guests catered by that fancy place on 5th Street. You weren't there?" I shook my head, trying to process. "No, I wasn't there." "Oh." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Well, I'm sure it was just an oversight. But I knew it wasn't." I went home and sat in my office, surrounded by the organized chaos of engineering manuals and project files. Everything in my world had its place, followed logical rules. This didn't. 3 days later, my phone rang. Eli's name on the caller ID. "Dad, I need to ask you something." His voice was tight, stressed. "It's about money." "Okay. I need $65,000. It's urgent." I set down my pen. "That's a lot of money, son. What's it for?" "Business crisis, cash flow problem. The investors are getting antsy, and we need to bridge the gap until the next funding round." "When do you need it?" "By Friday. I know it's short notice, but..." "Eli, can I ask you something?" Silence. "Was there a wedding dinner last weekend?" More silence. Then, "Dad, that's not important right now. What's important is, it's important to me." A sigh. "Look, it was just a small thing. Intimate. Only important people were invited. Family and close friends, you know. Vivian's family, some business contacts. Only important people." The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd changed this kid's diapers, taught him to ride a bike, paid for his college, helped launch his business. But I wasn't important enough for his wedding dinner. "Dad, are you there?" "I'm here." "So about the money. I need to think about it." "Dad, this is serious. If I don't get this money, everything I've built could collapse." I said I need to think about it. I hung up. An hour later, Vivian called. Eli's wife was a lawyer, sharp and polished, with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. She specialized in contract law at a boutique firm downtown, the kind that charged $500 an hour for phone calls. "Howard, we need to talk." "Not Dad. Not even Howie." "Howard." "About what, Vivian?" "About family. About responsibility. About what happens when people let petty emotions get in the way of what's right." "I'm listening." "Eli told me about your conversation. I want you to understand something. This isn't just about him. This is about all of us. When one part of the family succeeds, we all succeed. When one part fails..." She let the threat hang in the air. "Are you threatening me, Vivian?" "I'm explaining reality. Eli's business isn't just his livelihood. It's our future. It's Maya's future. It's the family's future. And right now, you're the only one who can save it. By writing a check. By doing what family does. By being there when it matters. The irony wasn't lost on me. Being there when it matters, from the woman who'd made sure I wasn't there for their wedding dinner. I'll consider it, I said. Don't consider too long. Friday's coming fast. She hung up. I sat in the growing darkness of my office, looking at the framed photo on my desk. Margaret and me on our 30th anniversary, smiling at some restaurant I couldn't remember. She'd always been better with the kids, the emotional bridge between my quiet nature and their big personalities. What would you do, Maggie? I whispered to the photo, but I already knew. Margaret would have wanted me to help. She'd always believed family came first, no matter what. She'd forgiven Eli's arrogance, Maya's selfishness, Vivian's manipulations. She'd called it love. Maybe it was, or maybe it was just enabling. The next morning, Maya showed up at my door. She looked guilty, fidgeting with her car keys, not quite meeting my eyes. Dad, can we talk? I let her in, made coffee, waited. About the dinner, she said finally. What about it? I wanted to invite you. I really did. But Vivian said... She trailed off. What did Vivian say? She said it would be awkward, with Mom gone and you being sad all the time, and the guest list being so carefully curated. She said it would bring down the mood. I felt something cold settle in my chest. And you agreed with her? I didn't know what to say. Eli backed her up. He said you'd understand, that you weren't really the party type anyway. So you said nothing. Tears started in her eyes. I'm sorry, Dad. I should have fought for you. I should have insisted. Yes, I said quietly. You should have. She cried then, and I held her like I had when she was little and scraped her knee. But something had changed. The trust we'd built over 27 years had a crack in it now, and I wasn't sure it could be repaired. After she left, I did what I always do when I'm trying to understand a problem. I gathered data. I pulled my bank statements for the past 3 years. Credit card records, loan documents, investment accounts. I spread everything across my dining room table and started making connections. The pattern that emerged made my stomach turn. Eli's emergency requests weren't new. They'd been happening for years, small amounts at first, then larger ones, each time with a story, unexpected expense, business opportunity, temporary cash flow problem, each time with a promise to pay me back soon. I'd never asked for the money back. They were family. Family helps family. But looking at the numbers, I realized I'd given Eli over $200,000 in the past 5 years. Not loans, gifts. Because that's what they'd become when no one ever mentioned repayment. And now he wanted $65,000 more. I made a list of every request, every excuse, every promise. Then I made another list. Every family event I'd been excluded from. Every decision made without consulting me. Every time I'd been treated like an obligation rather than a person. The lists were depressingly long. That evening, Eli texted, Dad, have you thought about what we discussed? Time's running out. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, still thinking. His response was immediate. What's to think about? It's family. Family. The word had lost all meaning. I closed my phone and went to my garage, where I kept old files in banker's boxes. If I was going to make a decision about family, I needed to understand exactly what family meant to them. What I found in those boxes would change everything. The next morning, I called my old friend Nora Lynn. We'd known each other since college, stayed in touch through marriages, divorces, career changes. She was a lawyer now, specializing in contract law with a practice that focused on protecting people from their own generosity. Howie, it's been too long, she said when I reached her. How are you holding up? I need some legal advice. Personal or professional? Both, I think. We met at a coffee shop downtown, one of those places with exposed brick and baristas who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Nora arrived first, already nursing a large coffee and reading documents on her tablet. At 56, she was sharp as ever, her gray hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. You look terrible, she said by way of greeting. Thanks, that's just what I needed to hear. I mean it. You look like you haven't slept in weeks. I probably hadn't. Not well, anyway. Family problems. The expensive kind? I told her about Eli's request, about the wedding dinner, about the pattern I'd discovered in my financial records. She listened without interrupting, taking notes in her precise handwriting. Have you signed anything recently? She asked when I finished. Loan agreements, contracts, anything that might give them access to your accounts? Maybe. Years ago, when Eli started his business, there were a lot of documents. I didn't read them all carefully. Nora's expression darkened. Howie, please tell me you didn't sign anything without reading it. I trusted him. He's my son. Trust is a luxury you can't afford in business, even family business. She closed her notebook. I need you to find every document you've ever signed involving Eli or his company, every loan agreement, every contract, every piece of paper with your signature on it. You think there's a problem? I think there's always a problem when family and money mix. The question is, how big a problem? That afternoon, I went back to my garage. The banker's boxes held 30 years of financial history, tax returns, insurance policies, investment statements, and buried deep in the third box, a manila folder labeled Eli's Business. I opened it and found documents I'd forgotten I'd signed. Loan agreements, yes, but also something called a partnership agreement, and several contracts with venues and vendors. My signature was on all of them, but I couldn't remember signing half of them. One document caught my attention, a contract with Grandview Banquet Hall for Lane family celebration. The date was from last month. The amount was $15,000, and according to the contract, I was listed as the guarantor. I'd never been to Grandview Banquet Hall. I'd certainly never agreed to guarantee payment for an event there. My phone rang. I lie again. Dad, Vivian's handling the paperwork for the loan. She'll bring it by tonight. What paperwork? Just standard stuff. Loan agreement, promissory note, legal formalities. I haven't agreed to the loan yet. Silence. Then, Dad, we talked about this. The deadline is Friday. We talked about you needing money. We didn't talk about me giving it to you. What's the difference? The question hung in the air like smoke. What was the difference? For the past 5 years, there hadn't been one. When Eli needed money, I gave it. When he needed help, I helped. When he needed me to disappear from his wedding dinner, I disappeared. I need more time, I said. We don't have more time. Then you have a problem. I hung up. An hour later, Maya knocked on my door. She looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder like she was being followed. Dad, can I come in? I need to tell you something. We sat in my living room, the same room where she'd played with dolls as a child, where I'd helped her with homework, where we'd watched movies on rainy Sundays. Vivian called me, she said. She told me not to talk to you about the money thing. Why would she do that? She said you were being emotional and irrational. She said talking to family would just confuse you more. And what do you think? Maya looked at her hands. I think Vivian scares me sometimes. She's so controlled, like everything has to go exactly the way she plans it. Did she threaten you? Not exactly, but she made it clear that if I interfered, if I said anything to make you change your mind about helping Eli, there would be consequences. What kind of consequences? She said family loyalty goes both ways, that if I wasn't loyal to Eli and her, maybe I shouldn't expect them to be loyal to me. The cold feeling in my chest grew stronger. Maya, has Eli ever paid me back? Any of the money I've given him over the years? She shook her head. I don't think so. Vivian handles all their finances. She says you don't need the money anyway, that helping family is more important than keeping score. And you believe that? I want to believe it, but lately... She looked up at me, and I saw the little girl she used to be, the one who came to me when she was scared or confused. Dad, I think they're in real trouble. Not just money trouble. Eli's been drinking more, staying out late. Vivian's been working crazy hours, taking calls at all hours of the night. Do you think I should give them the money? I think you should do whatever feels right to you, but I also think you should be careful. Vivian's a lawyer, Dad. She knows how to make things complicated. After Maya left, I sat in my office and stared at the documents spread across my desk. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I started reading them carefully. The partnership agreement was particularly interesting. According to the document, I owned a 20% stake in Eli's company, Pinnacle Solutions, LLC. In exchange for my initial investment of $50,000, I was entitled to 20% of all profits and had voting rights on major business decisions. I'd never received a profit distribution. I'd never been consulted on business decisions. I'd never even received financial statements. According to the agreement, I was entitled to all of those things. I called Nora. I found something, I said. Good something or bad something? I'm not sure yet. Can you meet me tomorrow? I need someone to look at these documents who actually understands what they mean. Of course. But Howie, I want you to be prepared. When family and money get tangled up like this, it rarely ends well for anyone. It's not ending well now. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Maya's words. Vivian's a lawyer. She knows how to make things complicated. I also kept thinking about the Grandview Banquet Hall contract. $15,000 for a Lane family celebration with me as the guarantor, an event I'd never attended, never agreed to, never even heard about until I found the contract in my own files. How had my signature gotten on that contract? More importantly, what other contracts had my signature on them? I got up and went back to the garage. This time, I pulled out every box, every file, every scrap of paper with my name on it. I worked until dawn, making piles, documents I remembered signing, documents I might have signed, and documents I was certain I'd never seen before. The third pile was disturbingly large. As the sun came up, I made coffee and called the Grandview Banquet Hall. "This is Howard Lane," I told the woman who answered. "I believe I have a contract with you for an event last month." "Oh yes, Mr. Lane, the wedding dinner. Beautiful event, though I have to say we're still waiting on final payment." A sudden chill washed over me. Final payment? "The balance is $3,500. It was due the day after the event, but the card we have on file was declined." "What card?" "The one ending in 4782. It's listed as your account." I knew that number. It was my business credit card, the one I used for work expenses, the one Eli had asked to borrow just once, 2 years ago, for a client dinner. "Ma'am, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be very honest with me. Did I personally sign that contract?" A pause. "Well, no. Mrs. Vivian Lane signed it, but you're listed as the guarantor, so we assumed you were aware." "Did Mrs. Lane have any authorization to sign on my behalf?" Another pause, longer this time. I don't know. She seemed very confident about the arrangement. She said you were handling all the financial details." "I see. Can you email me a copy of that contract?" "Of course. Is there a problem, Mr. Lane?" "I'm starting to think there might be." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen and tried to make sense of what I'd learned. Vivian had signed a contract using my name as guarantor. She'd put my credit card on file for payment. She'd organized and paid for a wedding dinner that I wasn't invited to, using my money and my credit. And now they wanted $65,000 more. My phone buzzed. A text from Eli. "Dad, Vivian will be by at 6 p.m. with the paperwork. Please have this handled by then. I'm counting on you." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "We need to talk first. All of us. You, me, Vivian, and Maya." His response was immediate. "No time for family meetings. Just sign the papers." Then no money. My phone rang immediately. Eli's voice was sharp, angry. "Dad, what's wrong with you? This isn't like you." "How would you know what I'm like? When's the last time you asked?" "This isn't about feelings, Dad. This is about business, about family." "You're right. It is about family. And I'm starting to understand exactly what family means to you." I hung up and turned off my phone. At 6 o'clock, I was ready. Vivian arrived precisely at 6, carrying a leather briefcase and wearing the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. She was dressed for success in a tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. "Howard, thank you for making time for this." I let her into my living room but didn't offer coffee. This wasn't a social visit. "Where's Eli?" "Handling a crisis at the office. But don't worry, I have full authority to handle this transaction." She opened her briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. "This is straightforward. A personal loan agreement for $65,000 with reasonable terms and a payment schedule that won't strain anyone." I glanced at the papers without touching them. "What's the interest rate?" 3%. Very generous." "And the payment schedule?" $50 a month." I did the math in my head. At $50 a month with 3% interest, it would take over 30 years to pay off the loan. Eli would be in his 60s before it was paid in full. "That's not a payment schedule," I said. "That's barely covering the interest." Vivian's smile tightened. "Howard, let's be realistic. This is family helping family. The specific terms are less important than the gesture." "The gesture?" "Yes, the gesture of trust, of support, of putting family first." I picked up the contract from the Grandview Banquet Hall and set it on the coffee table between us. "Speaking of gestures, can you explain this?" Vivian glanced at the document, and for just a moment her composure cracked. "Where did you get that?" "From my own files, the files where I keep contracts I've signed, except I don't remember signing this one." That was a miscommunication. The event planner needed a guarantor, and since you've always been so supportive of family events, I thought... You thought you'd forge my signature?" "I didn't forge anything. I had your verbal authorization." "When?" It was implied, based on your history of supporting the family." I stood up and walked to my office, returning with the manila folder full of documents. "Vivian, I've been going through my files. There are a lot of contracts here with my signature on them. Contracts for events I never attended, agreements for services I never requested, guarantees for debts I never incurred. Her lawyer mask was back in place. Howard, I think you're confused. All of those documents were properly executed with your full knowledge and consent. Prove it. Excuse me? Prove I consented. Show me the emails where I agreed. Play me the phone calls where I authorized you to sign my name. Produce the witnesses who saw me agree to guarantee payments for events I wasn't invited to. Vivian closed her briefcase with a sharp click. I don't like your tone, Howard. And I don't like being treated like an ATM with legs. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. You're making a mistake. Eli's business is on the verge of something big. This loan isn't just helping him, it's an investment in all our futures. Our futures? What's my return on investment, Vivian? What do I get besides the privilege of writing checks and being excluded from family events? You get the satisfaction of knowing you helped your son succeed. I've been getting that satisfaction for 5 years. Somehow it's not as satisfying as it used to be. Vivian picked up her briefcase. I'm going to pretend this conversation never happened. I'm going to give you tonight to think about what's really important here. Tomorrow I'll come back and you'll sign these papers and we'll all move forward as a family. And if I don't, her smile turned cold, then you'll discover what it's like to be on the outside of this family permanently. And trust me, Howard, that's not a place you want to be. After she left, I called Nora. She threatened me, I said. Legally or personally? Both, I think. Good. Threats mean they're scared. Scared people make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind that leave evidence. I want you to record every conversation from now on. Your phone has a recording app. Use it. And I want copies of every document you found. All of them? Every single one. If they've been forging your signature, we need to establish a pattern. And Howie? Yeah? Don't sign anything. No matter what they threaten, no matter what they promise, don't put your name on anything else. The next morning, I drove to Patel and Associates, the accounting firm that handled my taxes. Samir Patel had been my accountant for 15 years, a quiet man with an eye for detail and a reputation for discretion. Howie, good to see you. What can I do for you? I need you to pull up all my financial records for the past 5 years. Bank statements, credit card statements, investment accounts, everything. Samir's eyebrows went up. That's a lot of data. Is there a problem? I'm starting to think there might be. We spent 2 hours going through the records. Samir was thorough, flagging every unusual transaction, every large withdrawal, every transfer that didn't follow my normal patterns. Howie, he said finally, you've given your son over $250,000 in the past 5 years. I know. Do you know that's more than your annual salary? I hadn't known that. What else? There are credit card charges on your business account that don't match your usual spending patterns. Restaurant bills, clothing stores, travel expenses, all in Portland, but not places you typically frequent. Someone else has been using my card? It appears so. The charges are consistent with someone who has regular access to the account information. Samir printed out a summary of all the flagged transactions. The total was staggering, over $300,000 in 5 years, counting both direct transfers and unauthorized charges. Samir, if someone wanted to get a loan using my assets as collateral, what would they need? Your signature on the loan documents, obviously, but also access to your financial information, your credit report, possibly your banking passwords. And if they had all that, they could potentially borrow significant amounts of money in your name. Depending on how sophisticated they were, you might not even know about it until the bills came due. A chill ran down my spine. How would I find out if that had already happened? Credit report. We should pull your credit report right now. The credit report revealed 3 loans I'd never applied for, totaling $47,000. All were listed as personal loans, all showed regular payments being made, all were in good standing, but I'd never seen a bill for any of them. Samir, where are the payments for these loans coming from? He traced the payment history. Auto pay from your checking account, set up 18 months ago. I never set up auto pay for loans I didn't know I had. Then someone else did. That afternoon, I went to the community center where I'd been working out since Margaret passed away. Exercise helped me think, and I needed to think clearly about what I'd learned. I was on the treadmill when Maya appeared beside me. Dad, we need to talk. I slowed the machine to a walk. About what? About yesterday, about Vivian's visit. What about it? She called me afterward. She was upset. I imagined she was. Maya looked around nervously. She said you were being unreasonable, that you were letting grief cloud your judgment. What do you think? I think you're the most reasonable person I know, and I think if you're questioning something, there's probably a good reason. We moved to a quiet corner of the gym, away from other people. Maya, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Has Eli ever mentioned loans? Money he's borrowed in my name? Her face went pale. Dad, the truth, Maya. A few months ago, he mentioned something about managing your finances while you were grieving. He said you'd asked him to handle some of the paperwork, set up automatic payments for bills, that kind of thing. I never asked him to do that. I know. That's why it bothered me when he said it. You're not the kind of person who lets other people handle your finances. What else did he say? That Vivian was helping too. That she'd set up some kind of system to make sure all your bills got paid on time, so you didn't have to worry about it. The pieces were falling into place, and the picture they formed made me sick. Maya, I need you to think carefully. Has Vivian ever asked you for personal information about me? Social security number, bank account numbers, passwords? She asked for your social security number last year. She said she needed it for some kind of family insurance policy. Did you give it to her? Maya nodded, tears starting in her eyes. Dad, did I do something wrong? You trusted family. That's not wrong, but I think that trust was misplaced. That evening, I met with Nora at her office. I brought everything, the bank statements, the credit report, the contracts, the loan documents I'd never signed. Nora spread it all across her conference table and studied each document carefully. Howie, this is bad. How bad? They've been systematically defrauding you for years. Forged signatures, unauthorized loans, identity theft. We're talking about felony charges. What are my options? Think you can file a police report, you can sue them civilly, you can demand immediate repayment of all funds. Or you can use this information as leverage. What kind of leverage? Nora smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. The kind that gives you complete control over the situation. The kind that lets you decide exactly how this story ends. My phone buzzed. A text from Eli. Dad, deadline is tomorrow. Vivian says you're being difficult. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I showed the message to Nora. Perfect, she said. Let them think they're still in control. Let them think you're just a confused old man who doesn't understand what's happening. And then? Then we show them exactly how much you understand. I drove home that night with a plan forming in my mind. For 5 years, I'd been the invisible man, the silent partner, the reliable source of funds who never asked questions or demanded answers. But I'd also been watching, learning, documenting. And now I had everything I needed to change the game completely. The question was, did I have the courage to use it? Friday morning arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of Portland weather that matched my mood. I sat in my office with a cup of coffee and Nora's business card, staring at my phone. Eli had called twice and sent 4 texts, each one more urgent than the last. Vivian had left a voicemail that was barely disguised legal threats wrapped in family guilt. Maya had sent a worried message asking if I was okay. I was more than okay. For the first time in months, I felt like I had some control. At 9 o'clock, I called Stanley Wu. Stanley was Eli's business partner, a software engineer who joined Pinnacle Solutions 2 years ago. I'd met him at a few family gatherings, found him to be nervous but honest, the kind of guy who got into business because he was good with code, not because he understood money or politics. Mr. Lane, hi. Eli's not here right now, but I can have him call you back. Actually, Stanley, I wanted to talk to you. Oh, okay. What about? About the business, about how things are really going. A long pause. I'm not sure I should... Stanley, according to the partnership agreement I signed, I own 20% of the company. That means I'm entitled to financial information. That means I have a right to know how my investment is being managed. Another pause, longer this time. Mr. Lane, when was the last time you saw our books? I've never seen your books. That's not right. As a partner, you should be getting quarterly reports, financial statements, profit and loss summaries. I've never received any of those things. Jesus. Stanley's voice dropped to a whisper. Mr. Lane, can you come to the office? There's some stuff you need to see. Pinnacle Solutions operated out of a converted warehouse in the Pearl District, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. Stanley met me in the lobby, looking even more nervous than usual. Mr. Lane, I have to ask, how much money have you put into this company? Including the initial investment? About $300,000 over 5 years. Stanley's face went white. $300,000? Is that a problem? Mr. Lane, this company has never shown a profit. We've never paid dividends to anyone. If you've given us $300,000, where did that money go? He led me to a small conference room and pulled up financial records on his laptop. Look at this. Our total revenue for last year was $80,000. Our expenses were $95,000. We lost money. What about the year before? Lost money. And the year before that? Mr. Lane, this company has never been profitable. We're basically a hobby that bleeds cash. I studied the numbers on his screen. Stanley, if the company's losing money, how are you and Eli paying yourselves? We're not. I have a part-time consulting job to pay my bills. Eli. Stanley looked uncomfortable. Eli says he has family money. Family money. My money. Stanley, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Has Eli ever mentioned loans? Money borrowed against the company or against my investment? Stanley closed his laptop. Mr. Lane, I think Eli should be the one to... Stanley. He sighed. 6 months ago, Eli told me he'd secured a line of credit for the company, $50,000 to carry us through a rough patch. He said it was backed by your investment. Did you see the loan documents? No. Eli said Vivian handled all the legal stuff. And the money? It went into the company account, but then it got transferred out again pretty quickly. Eli said he was moving it to a high-yield savings account, but I never saw any statements. I felt the familiar cold sensation in my chest. Stanley, who has signature authority on the company accounts? Eli and Vivian. I don't have access to the financial accounts at all. Even though you're a partner? Eli said it was simpler to have fewer people involved in the money side of things. I left Pinnacle Solutions with more questions than answers, but one thing was clear. Eli and Vivian had been using the company as a personal piggy bank, funded entirely by my investments. That afternoon, I drove to the Grandview Banquet Hall. Mrs. O'Connell, the manager, was a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s who'd been running events for 30 years. She had the kind of memory that came from dealing with demanding clients and impossible deadlines. Mr. Lane, thank you for coming in. I was hoping we could resolve this payment issue. Mrs. O'Connell, can you walk me through exactly what happened with that contract? She pulled out a thick file folder. Your daughter-in-law contacted us in September. She said the family wanted to host a wedding dinner, very upscale, about 50 guests. She was very specific about the menu, the decorations, the timing. Did she mention that I would be attending? Mrs. O'Connell looked confused. No, actually. She made it clear that you were handling the financial arrangements, but that you preferred to stay behind the scenes. She said you were very private, didn't like being the center of attention. And the contract? She signed it as your representative. Said she had power of attorney for family financial matters. Did she show you any documentation of that power of attorney? Well, no, but she seemed very confident, very professional, and she knew all your personal information, social security number, bank account details, credit card numbers. Of course she did. Mrs. O'Connell, I need you to understand something. I never authorized that contract. I never agreed to guarantee payment. I didn't even know the event was happening until after it was over. Her face went pale. Mr. Lane, are you saying the contract was fraudulent? I'm saying my signature isn't on it. I never gave anyone permission to sign it on my behalf, and I'm not responsible for the balance. But the event already happened. The food was served, the staff was paid, the room was decorated. And that's unfortunate, but it's not my problem. Mrs. O'Connell looked stricken. Mr. Lane, if you don't pay the balance, we'll have to pursue legal action against whoever signed the contract. That would be Mrs. Vivian Lane. Yes, but she signed as your representative. Without authorization, which makes her personally liable. I left Mrs. O'Connell with Nora's business card and a promise that someone would be in touch about the fraudulent contract. That evening, I sat in my backyard with a beer and my thoughts. The rain had stopped, and the air smelled clean and fresh. Margaret had loved this time of day, when the light was soft and the world felt peaceful. But I didn't feel peaceful. I felt like a man who'd discovered that his entire family had been lying to him for years. My phone rang. Eli's name on the caller ID. Dad, what the hell is going on? What do you mean? Stanley says you came by the office asking questions. Mrs. O'Connell from the banquet hall called Vivian saying you're disputing the contract. What are you trying to do? I'm trying to understand where my money went. Your money? Dad, that money was gifts. Family helping family. Gifts require consent from the giver. Loans require knowledge from the lender. Contracts require authorization from the signatory. I don't understand what you're talking about. I'm talking about fraud, Eli. I'm talking about identity theft. I'm talking about felony charges that could put you and your wife in prison. Silence. Dad, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared. Look, if there were some misunderstandings about paperwork, we can fix that. We can clean up any confusion. The only confusion is why I trusted you for so long. Dad, please, let's sit down and talk about this like adults. Let's figure out a solution that works for everyone. I'm past talking, son. I'm into documenting now. What does that mean? It means I know about the loans you took out in my name. I know about the credit cards you've been using. I know about the contracts Vivian signed without my authorization. I know about all of it. Another long silence. Dad, if you go to the police with this, you'll destroy the family. You destroyed the family when you decided I was nothing more than a source of money. That's not true. Prove it. When's the last time you called me just to talk? When's the last time you asked about my life, my work, my feelings? When's the last time you treated me like a father instead of a bank? Dad, the wedding dinner, Eli. You had a wedding dinner and didn't invite me because I wasn't important enough. But my credit card was important enough. My signature was important enough. My money was important enough. We can fix this. No, son, we can't. But I can. I hung up and turned off my phone. For the first time in years, I felt completely calm. The next week passed in a strange kind of peace. I went to work, handled my engineering projects, came home to my quiet house. But underneath the routine, I was preparing. Nora had filed preliminary paperwork with the police, documenting the fraudulent loans and forged signatures. We weren't pressing charges yet, but the evidence was preserved and ready. Samir had helped me freeze the credit cards that Eli and Vivian had been using. He'd also changed all my banking passwords and set up fraud alerts on all my accounts. I'd contacted every vendor, every venue, every service provider who had contracts with my forged signature. Most were understanding when I explained the situation. A few were angry, but that anger was directed at Vivian, not me. Through it all, Eli called constantly. Vivian sent threatening emails. Maya texted worried messages asking what was happening. I ignored them all. On Wednesday, Vivian showed up at my office at the water department. She'd somehow gotten past security, probably by using her lawyer credentials and professional demeanor. Howard, we need to talk. No, we don't. You're making a terrible mistake. You're letting your emotions destroy your family. My family destroyed itself. She sat down across from my desk without being invited. Howard, I want you to understand something. If you pursue this legal action, if you try to claim fraud or forgery, you'll be accusing your own son of felony crimes. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm documenting what happened. The police won't see a difference. That's their problem. Vivian leaned forward. Howard, Eli loves you. We all love you. This whole situation has been a misunderstanding, a series of miscommunications. We can fix it. How? We'll pay back every penny. We'll close the loans, cancel the credit cards, tear up the contracts. We'll make it like none of this ever happened. And in exchange? You drop the legal action. You let us handle this privately, as a family. I studied her face. Even now, even caught red-handed in years of fraud, she was trying to control the narrative. Vivian, where would you get the money to pay me back? We have resources. What resources? Eli's company is bankrupt. You've been living off my money for years. Where would you suddenly find $300,000? She looked uncomfortable for the first time since I'd known her. We'd figure it out. By borrowing more money in my name? Of course not. Then how? She stood up abruptly. Howard, you have 24 hours to think about this. After that, we'll have to explore other options. What other options? Legal options. You're not the only one who can file papers and make accusations. After she left, I called Nora. She threatened me again? Good, let her dig the hole deeper. What kind of legal options could she have? None that would work, but she might try to claim you're mentally incompetent, that you gave them authorization but don't remember because of grief or age-related confusion. Could that work? Not with the evidence we have, but it would be messy and public and painful for everyone involved. Maybe it's time for messy and public. That evening, Maya came to my house. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. Dad, please tell me what's going on. Eli won't talk to me, Vivian won't return my calls, and you're not answering your phone. I made tea and told her everything. The forged contracts, the unauthorized loans, the credit card fraud, the systematic theft that had been going on for years. Maya cried. Not the gentle tears of sadness, but the harsh sobs of someone whose world was collapsing. I gave her your social security number, she said when she could speak again. I helped them steal from you. You didn't know. I should have known. I should have questioned why they needed that information. I should have protected you. Maya, you're not responsible for their choices. But I enabled them. I made it easier. Yes, you did. But that doesn't make you guilty of fraud. She looked up at me with red eyes. What are you going to do? I'm going to stop it. How? By using the one thing they forgot about. What's that? I may be quiet, and I may be generous, and I may have let them take advantage of me for years, but I'm not stupid, and I'm not helpless. Dad, if you have them arrested, Maya, they've committed serious crimes, multiple felonies. The fact that they're family doesn't change that. But Eli could go to prison? Yes, he could. And you're okay with that? I thought about the question carefully. Was I okay with my son going to prison? Was I okay with destroying what was left of our family? Maya, for 5 years, they've treated me like I was already gone. Like I was just a source of money with no feelings, no dignity, no rights. They excluded me from family events while using my credit cards to pay for them. They forged my signature on legal documents. They stole my identity to get loans I never agreed to. I know, but there is no but. They made their choices. Now they have to live with the consequences. Maya left that night looking broken. I felt sorry for her, but not sorry enough to change my mind. The next morning, Mrs. O'Connell called. Mr. Lane, I wanted to let you know that Mrs. Vivian Lane contacted me yesterday. She offered to pay the outstanding balance on the banquet contract. Did she pay it? She tried, but her card was declined, and when she tried to write a check, my bank said there were insufficient funds. I see. Mr. Lane, I have to ask, are you planning to honor that contract? Mrs. O'Connell, my signature isn't on that contract. I never agreed to guarantee payment. I never even knew the event was happening. So the answer is no. The answer is no. Then I'll have to pursue legal action against Mrs. Lane personally. That's your right. After I hung up, I felt a grim satisfaction. The walls were closing in, and Vivian was running out of options. That afternoon, Eli showed up at my house. He looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled, like he'd been sleeping in his car. Dad, please, we need to talk. I let him in, but I didn't offer him anything. This wasn't a social visit. Dad, I know we messed up. I know we made mistakes. But we can fix this. How? We'll pay you back. Every penny. It'll take time, but we'll do it. With what money? I'll get a job. A real job. Vivian makes good money at her firm. We'll work out a payment plan. Eli, you owe me over $300,000. At Vivian's salary, paying me back would take 20 years. Then 20 years. Dad, please, don't destroy us over money. This isn't about money. Then what's it about? It's about respect. It's about honesty. It's about treating me like a human being instead of a resource to be exploited. Eli sat down heavily on my couch. Dad, I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? I don't know. It started small. A loan here, a favor there. But the business was struggling, and Vivian said you wouldn't mind. That family helps family. Did you ever ask me if I minded? I was afraid you'd say no. So you decided to take it anyway. I thought I'd pay you back before you noticed. But you never did. The business never took off the way I thought it would, and then we needed more money and more, and it just snowballed. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, this person I'd loved unconditionally for 32 years, and I realized I didn't know him at all. Eli, do you understand what you've done? Do you understand that identity theft is a felony? That forgery is a felony? That you could go to prison for this? Dad, please, don't let it come to that. I'm not letting it come to anything. You brought it to this. What do you want from me? I want you to face the consequences of your choices. And if I do, if I plead guilty, if I make restitution, if I do whatever the court says, will you forgive me? I thought about the question. Could I forgive him? Could I ever trust him again? I don't know, I said honestly. Dad, Eli, you need to leave now. Dad, please, leave. He left, and I sat in my empty house, surrounded by the silence that had become my constant companion. Tomorrow, Nora and I would meet with the district attorney. Tomorrow, the legal machinery would start moving. Tomorrow, my son would discover what it meant to face real consequences for his actions. But tonight, I sat in my chair and remembered the little boy who used to climb into my lap and ask me to read him stories. I remembered teaching him to ride a bike, helping him with homework, being proud of his graduation. That little boy was gone, replaced by a man who saw me as nothing more than a source of money, and maybe it was time to let him go. 3 weeks later, I received an unexpected invitation. It arrived in my mailbox on expensive cardstock, gold lettering on cream paper. Pinnacle Solutions cordially invites you to our annual investor reception. Join us for an evening of celebration as we announce our expansion plans and recognize our valued partners. The date was set for the following Friday. The venue was the Grandview Banquet Hall. I called Nora. "They're having a party," I said. "What kind of party?" "Investor reception, at the same venue where they had the wedding dinner." "The venue that's suing Vivian for non-payment?" "That's the one." Nora was quiet for a moment. "Howie, this could be perfect." "Perfect how?" "Public venue, witnesses, investors who presumably don't know about the fraud. If they're trying to raise money from new investors while owing you $300,000, that's securities fraud." Exactly." I studied the invitation. At the bottom, in small print, "Cocktails and dinner provided by our generous sponsors and partners." "Nora, I think I want to attend this party." "Are you sure? It could get ugly." "It's already ugly, but at least this way, it'll be honest." Friday evening arrived cold and clear. I dressed carefully in my best suit, the one I'd worn to Margaret's funeral. I wanted to look respectable, professional, like the kind of man who kept careful records and understood legal documents. The Grandview Banquet Hall was decorated for success. White tablecloths, fresh flowers, a banner reading "Pinnacle Solutions, Building Tomorrow's Technology Today." About 40 people mingled with drinks and appetizers, most of them looking like investors or business professionals. Mrs. O'Connell spotted me near the entrance. "Mr. Lane, I wasn't expecting to see you here." "Change of plans." I should mention, we still haven't received payment for this event either. Mrs. Lane assured us the check would clear, but it didn't. No, it didn't. I handed her Nora's business card. "When this evening is over, call that number. Ms. Lynn will help you recover what you're owed." Eli was working the room like a politician, shaking hands and making promises. He was dressed in an expensive suit I'd probably paid for, wearing confidence like cologne. When he saw me, his face went white. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I was invited. I am an investor, after all." "Dad, please, not here, not tonight." "Why not tonight?" "These people don't know about our situation. If you cause a scene..." "If I cause a scene..." "Eli, you've been committing fraud for years, and you're worried about me causing a scene." Vivian appeared at Eli's side, her lawyer's smile firmly in place. "Howard, how lovely that you could join us." "Wouldn't miss it." "I hope you'll enjoy the presentation. Eli's prepared some very exciting announcements about the company's future." "I'm sure he has." The presentation began at 7:30. Eli stood at the front of the room with a microphone and a PowerPoint display, looking every inch the successful entrepreneur. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Pinnacle Solutions has had an incredible year, and we're excited to share our growth plans with you." He clicked to the first slide. Revenue growth 2019-2023. The chart showed steady upward growth, culminating in projected revenues of over $2 million for the coming year. I knew those numbers were fictional. According to Stanley's records, the company had never shown a profit. "Our success has been built on the foundation of strong partnerships and investor confidence," Eli continued. "We're particularly grateful for the ongoing support of our founding partners who believed in our vision from the beginning." He clicked to the next slide. Founding partners. My name was at the top of the list with a note, "Howard Lane, Principal Investor and Strategic Advisor." I'd never been a strategic advisor. I'd never even seen a business plan. Tonight, we're announcing our Series B funding round, seeking $2 million in new investment to fuel our expansion into new markets. I stood up. The room went quiet. Eli stopped talking. Vivian's smile faltered. "Excuse me," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I have a question." "Dad, this isn't the time." "Actually, this is exactly the time. You listed me as a principal investor and strategic advisor. I think that gives me the right to ask questions." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Several people pulled out phones, sensing drama. "Mr. Lane," Vivian said, trying to regain control, "perhaps we could discuss this privately after the presentation." "No, I think we should discuss it now, in front of everyone." I walked to the front of the room. Eli backed away from the microphone like it was radioactive. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Howard Lane. According to this presentation, I'm a principal investor in Pinnacle Solutions, and I want you to know some facts about this company before you consider investing your money." "Dad, please." Fact 1. Pinnacle Solutions has never shown a profit, not in 5 years of operation. Gasps from the audience. Someone started recording video. Fact 2. The revenue numbers you just saw are fabricated. The company's actual revenue last year was less than $80,000. "Mr. Lane," Vivian stepped forward, "you're clearly confused." Fact 3. I never agreed to be a strategic advisor. I never received financial reports. I never approved business plans. I was kept completely in the dark about the company's operations. "Sir," one of the investors called out, "if you're a principal investor, surely you must have—" Fact 4. My investment in this company was obtained through fraud. Forged signatures, unauthorized loans, stolen identity information. The FBI is currently investigating. The room erupted, and investors started talking loudly, some heading for the exits. Mrs. O'Connell stepped forward with a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I need to make an announcement. Grandview Banquet Hall has not received payment for tonight's event. The credit card provided by Pinnacle Solutions was declined, and the company check bounced. If payment isn't received immediately, we'll need to end this event." Vivian rushed to Mrs. O'Connell. "There's been a mistake. The payment should have gone through. Ma'am, this is the third event we've hosted for your family where payment has failed. We can't continue service without immediate payment." I pulled out my phone and called Nora. She was waiting in the parking lot with Officer Leah Brooks and 2 FBI agents. "We're ready," I said. The doors opened and law enforcement entered. The remaining investors scattered like startled birds. Eli sank into a chair, his face in his hands. Vivian tried to maintain her composure, but her hands were shaking. "Eli Lane and Vivian Lane," Officer Brooks announced. "You're under arrest for identity theft, bank fraud, and securities fraud." As they read Eli his rights, he looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know you are, son. But sorry doesn't fix what you broke." Maya appeared beside me, having arrived with Nora. She watched her brother being handcuffed with a mixture of sadness and relief. "It's over," she said. "Yes, it is." Stanley approached me as the police led Eli and Vivian away. "Mr. Lane, I want you to know I had no idea about the fraud. If I'd known, I believe you, Stanley." "What happens to the company now?" "The company was never real. It was just a way for them to steal my money and other people's investments." "So it's over?" "It's over." The banquet hall emptied quickly. Mrs. O'Connell began directing her staff to clean up, muttering about payment and lawyers. The investors who'd come hoping to fund the next big thing left disappointed and angry. I stood in the empty room with Nora and Maya, surrounded by the debris of Eli's fake empire. "How do you feel?" Nora asked. I thought about the question. How did I feel? Sad, certainly. Angry, yes. But also something else. "Free," I said finally. "I feel free." 6 months later, Eli pled guilty to multiple felony charges and was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison. Vivian received 2 years and was disbarred. They were ordered to pay full restitution, though everyone knew I'd never see most of the money. Maya and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. She moved back to Portland and started having dinner with me every Sunday. We talked about Margaret, about family, about the importance of honesty and boundaries. Stanley found a job with a legitimate tech company. Mrs. O'Connell recovered her losses through insurance and learned to demand payment up front for family events. I went back to my quiet life, my engineering work, my methodical approach to problems with clear solutions. But I was different now, stronger, more careful about trust, but not bitter. People sometimes asked if I regretted turning in my own son. The answer was complicated. I regretted that he'd made choices that led to prison. I regretted that our family had been destroyed by greed and deception. I regretted that Margaret hadn't lived to see her children become better people. But I didn't regret stopping the fraud. I didn't regret standing up for myself. I didn't regret refusing to be invisible anymore. Because sometimes the quiet man has to speak up. Sometimes the generous person has to say no. Sometimes the family member who's always been taken for granted has to remind everyone exactly what they forgot about him. They forgot that quiet doesn't mean weak. They forgot that generous doesn't mean stupid. They forgot that calm doesn't mean powerless. And most importantly, they forgot that the man who keeps the lights on and the pipes flowing knows exactly how to turn everything off when people stop treating him with respect. Guess I forgot to tell them that.